Welcome to Rise Untold, where the stories behind the spotlight come alive. The lights dimmed, the crowd waited. And then, two legends walked into the fire. Alice Cooper, Johnny Depp. Two men from different worlds. One, a godfather of shock rock. The other, a Hollywood rebel. But that night, they came together for something bigger than themselves. A tribute to a man who shaped metal, madness, and music itself. Ozzy Osbourne. It wasn't just a performance. It was a storm. Alice grabbed the mic, Johnny strapped on his guitar, and the first notes of Paranoid sliced through the night like a war cry. Not a cover. A resurrection. Because this wasn't just about singing a song. It was about honoring a legacy that refused to die. Even as Ozzy's own battles with Parkinson's grew louder behind closed doors, his music still screamed louder than ever. And on that stage, Johnny wasn't just an actor anymore. He was a rock star. Every riff, every chord, every scream that Alice let loose into the night felt like a message. We don't forget our legends. We don't let them fade. And as the crowd roared, you could feel it. Ozzy was there, maybe not in body, but in spirit. In every head banged, in every flash of light, in every lyric that once shocked the world and still echoes decades later. For Johnny, it was personal. This wasn't just another stage. It was redemption. After years of public battles, media storms, and silence, he stood beside Alice Cooper, guitar in hand, and reminded the world, art survives, legends endure, and sometimes the most powerful tributes aren't whispered in speeches, they're screamed into microphones. It was chaotic. It was It was perfect. Because rock and roll was never meant to be cleaned. It was meant to shake souls. And that night, it did. It started. Like any other night in rock and roll, the stage was set, the crowd restless, an energy hung in the air. Electric, almost supernatural. Then the lights dropped, the silence hit. And from the shadows, two silhouettes emerged. Alice Cooper, the godfather of shock rock. Johnny Depp, the Hollywood icon who traded cameras for chords. At first glance, you might have wondered, what are these two doing here? But then, the music hit. The first notes of Paranoid, Ozzy Osbourne's legendary anthem, crashed like a wave, and everything else disappeared, because this wasn't just a performance. It wasn't just two stars having fun on stage. This was something deeper. A tribute. A resurrection. A love letter to one of the greatest to ever walk the fire of rock and live to tell the tale. Ozzy Osbourne, the Prince of Darkness, wasn't there in person that night, but make no mistake, his presence was everywhere. In every riff that sliced through the crowd, in every growl that came out of Alice Cooper's throat, in every fierce, defiant note Johnny tore out of his guitar like it owed him something. It wasn't polished. It wasn't perfect. And that's exactly what made it real. Because rock and roll was never about perfection. It was about chaos, emotion, truth. And that night, truth roared louder than any amplifier. Alice Cooper didn't just sing Paranoid. He became it. A song written by a young Ozzy, desperate to find peace in a world that made no sense, suddenly found new meaning decades later. Sung by one of his oldest friends, with a man who knew what it felt like to be haunted by fame, by mistakes, by the past. Johnny Depp wasn't acting that night. There was no script, no director, no safety net. Just a man, a guitar, and the echo of something real. He's been through it all. The scandals, the heartbreak, the silence, the doubt. But when his fingers hit those strings, all of it melted away. For those few minutes, he was freed. He wasn't Captain Jack. He wasn't the man from the courtroom headlines. He was just Johnny, raw, unfiltered, and pouring everything into the sound. Because sometimes, when the world tries to drown you, you scream back through the strings. And Alice, he's always known how to do that. He didn't just survive the industry that he owned. He carved his name into the bones of it with eyeliner and blood and brilliance. And tonight, he used that voice, that growl that once terrified parents and thrilled teenagers, to honor a brother. Ozzy, a man who refused to stop, even as Parkinson's began to take from him, piece by piece. Even as his body slowed down, his spirit never did. That's the thing about legends. They don't go quietly. They burn, loud, defiant, alive. And that's exactly what Johnny and Alice gave us. They didn't just play Paranoid. They resurrected it. They reminded us what it felt like the first time we heard it. The rush, the rage, the rebellion. They reminded us why Ozzy matters. Not just because he sold millions of records, not just because he bit the head off a bat or ruled MTV, but because he survived addiction, illness, doubt, time. Ozzy Osbourne survived, and now, even as the world whispers about his fading health, his music screams louder than ever, because that's what legacy sounds like. And that night, Johnny Depp and Alice Cooper cranked that volume to 11. People in the crowd didn't just cheer, they felt it, that strange, beautiful blend of nostalgia and urgency, that of looking back and still roaring forward. It wasn't just about remembering. Ozzy.it was about becoming him. And through the lights, the chaos, and the thunder, you could almost see him. Not the frail figure on the news, but the young rebel, shirtless, sweaty, eyes wide with madness, screaming at the world and daring it to scream back. That's what Alice and Johnny gave us. A window. A moment day. Resurrection. Because rock music may evolve. It may fade from the charts, but it will never die. Not as long as artists keep bleeding on stage. Not as long as guitars still cry. Not as long as tributes like this one remind us that legends live forever. So, if you've ever wondered whether music can still make your heart stop, if you've ever questioned whether it can still feel real in a world full of filters and fakes, then watch Johnny Depp and Alice Cooper tear through Paranoid. And you'll get your answer. Because this wasn't just a tribute to Ozzy Osbourne. It was a battle. It was defiance. It was memory. It was music doing what it does best, telling the truth. And sometimes, truth doesn't come in a whisper. It doesn't come dressed in clean lines or perfect harmony. Sometimes, truth comes loud, chaotic, ugly, unapologetic, just like rock and roll itself. Because music, real music, doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't follow rules. It breaks them. And in that breakage, it shows us something raw, something real. That night, when Alice Cooper and Johnny Depp took the stage to honor Ozzy Osbourne, they didn't just play a song. They told a story. A story of rebellion. Of pain. Of triumph. Of survival. It was Ozzy's story, but in some strange, poetic way, it became their story too. Johnny Depp, standing under blinding lights, guitar slung low, wasn't there to prove anything. He was there to feel. To release. To scream into the void, not with words, but with 6 strings and soul. And Alice Cooper, the eternal showman, didn't just perform, he summoned something ancient, something feral, something that reminded every single person in that room that music is sacred, not polished, not scripted, but sacred. And in honoring Ozzy, they tapped into something far greater than tribute. They became part of the echo, part of the pulse that refuses to die, even when bodies grow tired and time moves on. Because music doesn't age. It stains you. It burns itself into memory. And if you're lucky, if you're brave enough, you get to carry a piece of that flame. Ozzy Osbourne lit that flame decades ago, with every howl, every stage dive, every note he tore from the void and made immortal. And Alice and Johnny? They held that flame up to the sky that night. As if to say, he's still here. We're still here, and rock is still alive. They didn't need to say the words. You could see it in the crowd. You could feel it in the way the room shook, the way people closed their eyes and mouthed the lyrics like they were saying a prayer. Because for some, Paranoid was just a song, but for others, it was the first time they felt seen, heard, understood. And that's what legends do. They don't just entertain. They leave fingerprints on the soul. They make you feel something you can't explain. Ozzy did that. Johnny and Alice honored that. And when the final note faded into the night, it wasn't an ending. It was a vow. A vow that music like this will never disappear. That the men who lit the fire will be remembered not for the things that broke them, but for the way they rose in spite of its. Oh, here's the truth. Legends don't fade. They don't vanish. They don't die. They become something bigger than themselves. They become sound, memory, movement, rebellion. They become eternal. Because as long as a single voice dares to sing their songs, as long as one guitar dares to scream their name into the darkness, they live, they rise. This is Rise Untold.